Hello, robots in Internet Land. I am Sobertron, and welcome to the next episode of the TekTopia Survival Guide. In today's episode, we are going to cover a few things to include the merchant, the miner, and a few more tips and tricks. And we're actually going to start off with some tips and tricks. So, my village has been running for a little while now. I've been AFKing for quite a bit, and I wanted to share one tip with you before we got going. So, we don't currently have a blacksmith or a miner. We have no access to iron for our villagers. So our villagers will normally craft up some wooden tools using wood harvested by the lumberjacks. However, you can stock them with your own tools, and they will use them. The one drawback to this is that they degrade 3 times faster than if it was a villager crafted item. So those axes and hoes that we're currently using are going to disappear very quickly. I've been doing a lot of mining to keep up with it, but I think it's time we get a miner and then hopefully a blacksmith later on to get some actual villager tools going. I've also built this nice little house. We plan on turning this into our first 4-bedroom house. It's a little cramped. It's probably too small, but it'll work out in itself. And then if you've noticed, I've also terraformed quite a bit. This hill was pretty much a straight line of stone, and I've pushed it back a bit. The other thing that's happened is I've gotten myself some diamond tools. With enchantments, I have been AFKing pretty much exclusively at our fish farm. That gave me a lot of levels and a lot of enchanted books. The other thing, if you notice, is our starter house is gone. I've actually moved temporarily inside of the town hall. This is kind of my base of operations. It's not going to last very long because I have other plans. And the last thing I've done off camera is I've moved our cows, sheep, and pigs because of that other plan I have. What I'm going to do back here is going to be pretty amazing, and I hope you guys enjoy it. But for right now, let me track down the merchant. There he is, and let me show you a couple tips with that guy. So I've actually decided to wait until the next in-game day to show you the trading with the merchant, because I wanted to show you one thing before we did that. Early game, I wait until I have at least 5 stacks of every possible item to trade. So that includes the 4 wood types, which I have over here in this corner, and the 4 crop types, which I have over here. And that is because each of these types of items will trade for 4 emeralds apiece, and you will get all 8 of them on the first trade with the merchant. So what that means is I can trade 5 stacks of each log for 20 emeralds total, and then I can trade all 4 types of crops, 5 stacks each for 20 emeralds total. So that means we are going to get 160 emeralds on our first trade. Given that I started with less than a stack of emeralds early on, and we're about to get 3 stacks, that is huge for our in-game currency to help build our village from the get-go. So I'll be back momentarily once the merchant shows up in the morning, and I'll show you what we're going to do with this lead and this hitching post. So we are back in the next in-game day, and this is actually perfect timing. I'm using this lead to grab the merchant, and we are going to pull him inside our storage room. And then we can just attach him right there and begin our trading. You can do this with any villager, but you want to avoid doing it because it does lower their happiness, and eventually, even with the merchant, the lead will break. So what we're going to do right now is trade items that we have more of later on. So we can see that we're getting 4 emeralds apiece with all of these items. The merchant actually saves his last 30 trades, which is why we want to trade our more common items first, and then our less common items, because if we do this bulk trading with the merchant early on, we can actually get them back up to hopefully 4 emeralds the next day if we had an excess. We currently don't because we're still early game, but you can see the emeralds are piling up right now. I'm going to finish off with this guy, and then I'm going to actually head over to the architect and tradesman and start getting some new structures and some new profession tokens. So I decided not to wait another day because we have an abundance of nomads here, and I want to use some of these profession tokens right away. So what you want to do is a lot of these more common structures, like the mine shaft we're going to buy, you want to buy in bulk early on. That is a lot of mine shafts. And the reason for that is the prices get more expensive as you go. So the more you can buy in bulk, that was probably way too many mine shafts, the better you're off you're gonna be. So we're gonna buy a couple of these structures. I want to buy the library. 30 emeralds. Yeah, I'm buying it. I have a few more emeralds over here from our villager or village rating. So now we can buy some professions. So I definitely want at least 2 miners. Yeah, that I messed up there. Wow, that was bad. I want one more farmer for right now. I only bought one miner. Buy another miner. And then I want one more lumberjack. Now, once we hit 8 villagers in here, we have the potential for nomads to spawn. Or, excuse me, not nomads, necromancers to spawn. It's not gonna be too big of a deal, though, because we can do a trick that I'll show you in a minute to prevent that from happening. So I am going to finish purchasing up some things. I gotta figure out where I want to go with this, and I'll be back with you shortly. So now that we've purchased profession tokens, that's going to bring our village population to 8, I wanted to show you a trick utilizing the town hall token that will prevent the necromancer spawning. So I've already explained previously that your visitors to your village, like the merchant and nomad, will spawn in the corners. The necromancer does the exact same thing. But to prevent this, all we need to do is rotate the Town Hall token at least one time so that it's not straight up and down, and it will prevent the Necromancer from spawning. It just shuts it off. Now, I tend to keep it in this position just so I know that it's always pointed that way. Some players will put it down to where it's facing downward. That way the emerald that's inside looks semi-normal. But it's really up to player preference. But simply putting it one time into that position will keep your village safe from all those nasty necromancers until you and your guards are ready to take them down. Now that I've recovered a bit from wasting all those emeralds on so many mine shafts, it's not really a waste because we will use them eventually, but it is something you should try to avoid. Well, I was a witch. It was something you should try to avoid early game is wasting your emeralds, but it's happened, nothing we can do about it. So now we're going to look at getting our mine shafts in place for our miners. So as you can see, I have been digging shafts over here to get some resources going for myself. But this is the basic outline of what you want for your mine shaft. You need to dig in one block so that kind of acts as the door for the mine shaft. Then you put up your item frame and then your token, and it should activate. So the other thing we're going to do, and this is another trick that we have done, is we are going to actually put it in this mine shaft, and I've dug out to the village border, and as you can see, that is not active. But what I have been doing is I've been using our Silk Touch pick to get ores. So what we can do is fill this mine shaft up with ores that we have dug. I'll start really close just so I can show you guys. Is that this will now activate, and now you've got ores right there for your miner to get, to both get items to trade, items for your villagers to use, and also to level up your miner much faster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably fill in this mine shaft with the rest of these ores. I'll move that token over here, and it's just it's a very cool trick you can do early game to give your miners a little head start. And as you can see, our miners are showing up for their first day of work, and they are both coincidentally named Audrey, which I find a little odd. But the miners will go to the closest mine shaft, and you will only ever have one miner go into a shaft. There are times where they will try to enter the other shaft, but as soon as they detect that there's another miner there, they should move into this other shaft. We have, like, Audrey number 2 is doing. They will also try to go into the shortest shaft, and that's why you see them going back and forth between the two. This will eventually work itself out as that shaft is now longer, and Audrey number 1 will move back to her original mine shaft. But you can see that those diamonds that I dug earlier being right up front are going to lead... There's a lot of mobs around. Those diamonds up front are going to lead to us getting a lot of resources very early on. You can see she already has 2. Audrey number 1 over here actually picked up the other one. But this is something I recommend to all new players, is to use your silk tool dig a couple ores out, and then fill a mine shaft with them because you will get resources, uh, loads and loads of resources by doing this. So it's the next night after the miners have done their first day of work, and I noticed that this mine shaft was deactivated, but it's not very far. And that is usually caused by either water or lava that is flowing right behind the block. And as you can see here, that is the case. To fix this, there is a couple things, really only one thing you can do, and that is to block off this water stream over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to place a couple blocks, block off that water stream, and now that mine shaft should be reactivated. Take a look. Yes, it has reactivated. So if you ever find yourself looking at a deactivated mine shaft, but you haven't hit the village border yet, that is the reason why. One last thing I wanted to show is a bit more with the merchant that I was explaining earlier. So if we go up to the merchant now, we can see that the spruce wood trade, which we traded first along with the oak wood, is already back up to 4. And that has to do with the merchant only saving the last 30 items. You can see birch, which was one of the last thing we did, is still at 1 because it's still been recent since we traded it. Same with wheat and beetroots. So just take that trick to heart. Trade in bulk when you can with both the merchant and with your architect and tradesmen. I think I'm going to call it for this episode. It seems like it's running a bit long. Uh, when I'm away, I'm actually going to build up a little mine kind of entrance here because it's looking a bit plain. And hopefully I want to get started at least on the layout of what I'm going to do back here. I have plans. I have plans, people. You'll see. But thank you for watching, robots out there in Internet Land. I have been Sobertron. I hope you have a good night. I will see you next time.